Welcome everyone to today's Synergist product demo, Making Informed Decisions Faster, the Gilian Dustlight Solution. I'm Kay Bechtold, Managing Editor of the Synergist, the magazine of AIHA. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today, and especially Sensidyne for sponsoring this webinar. Today's product demo is scheduled for 30 minutes. Our speaker is Aaron Apostolico, who is responsible for Sensidyne's corporate IH program and managing the product applications across the business. Aaron earned his Bachelor of Science degree from Rutgers University in Environmental Science and attended the University of South Florida College of Public Health for graduate studies in occupational health and safety. He currently holds professional designations as a certified industrial hygienist, certified safety professional, and certified indoor environmental consultant. Welcome, Aaron. The presentation is all yours.
Thank you very much. Let me switch over to my presentation real quick. It's a real pleasure to be here. As mentioned, I'm the Product and Applications Research Manager, but also as a CIH. More and more industrial hygienists and epidemiologists have continued to correlate exposures of respirable silica and other particulates to increased amounts of health impacts, especially respiratory health impacts, as well as other toxicological effects. With that, I always like to start with a problem statement and then kind of work our way into a solution. So one of the challenges that is out there with traditional gravimetric sampling is that it doesn't always paint a complete picture of what the exposure is. Traditional sampling, you get a TWA, and what this doesn't account for is, intermittent spikes of exposure throughout the workday. Additionally, traditional methods have a more delayed response. I take this into account for, both the time it takes to sample, send the media off for lab analysis, get the results from the lab analysis. This could take days or even weeks, depending on where you're located and what laboratory you're utilizing. Additionally, gravimetric traditional monitoring can get expensive, if you find that you're, non-compliant with your exposure results. So what does that mean? You're going to have additional sampling media, additional lab fees. If you hire a third-party consultant to come on site, all this can add up. And lastly, regulatory pressure has really been enhanced over, I would say, the last 2 years, especially around things like silica exposure. You must prove control measures are effective. And how do you do that? We have to be able to validate what controls you've put in place and really be able to show that they are effective and are reducing your worker exposures. So this brings up the question, why does real-time monitoring matter and how does it make a difference? Well, first of all, you get immediate visibility into the airborne particulate levels. So this is, an instant direct read instrument. It's going to give you those levels in real time. You can use it to validate those controls that you put in place. You could correct issues without waiting for laboratory results. A lot can happen in days or weeks of exposure. So if you're able to make an immediate response, due to a reading that you can use with a real-time sampler, this certainly, accentuates your program and allows you to, reach a more compliant state sooner. One of the common questions that I've received as we're looking to launch this product is, does OSHA accept, the results of the real-time sampler? This is best addressed by looking at OSHA's respirable crystalline silica standard. In 1910.1053, they talk about performance options and they talk about, using supplemental data. And when you have, both observational data as well as real-time sampling used to supplement your traditional gravimetric sampling with speciated results, It's not really meant to replace it, but it's definitely used to both complement it as well as to drive, workplace initiatives. So when we talk about compliance and data confidence, the real-time data again can be used to meet OSHA's criteria for objective data. Um, it can complement gravimetric sampling. So what this means is I can get my informed information in less time and at a lower cost. I can identify higher exposure tasks by using it as a screening tool. So, in addition to wearing it on an individual to get, either a short-term result or even an 8-hour TWA, I can use it as a handheld meter to walk around and actually scout out areas where sources may be higher to identify what those areas are. If I want to delineate maybe a safe distance away from a source, I can use, the Gilian Dustlight to, effectively delineate that zone. And then to, validate that beyond this zone, my results are below my threshold levels. So the Gilian Dustlight, again, has this capability. And this illustration really shows you, with traditional gravimetric sampling, you're looking at time spent both sampling, the time it takes for the lab analysis plus the cost of lab analysis. And then if you find out that, you were either non-detect, which does occur, and or out of compliance, you have to go back and sample again. So if you move to an instrument like the Gilian Dustlight, where real-time monitoring can take place, you can determine right away whether or not you have levels that are out of compliance. You can then make adjustments, put in some controls, and then test again using the Gilian Dustlight. At which point, if you find that you are in compliance with the Gilian Dustlight, you might then want to validate it using your traditional gravimetric sampling, send that to the lab, and then be able to document that you're within the compliance of the regulations. So now we're going to really talk about, some of the benefits of the Gilian Dustlight instrument. It's very compact, it's rugged and lightweight. It's small enough where it can be worn in the breathing zone without really causing interference to a worker's job function. It can be worn on other accessories, whether it's a belt, a vest, using a click-fast mount system. So there's different options for wearing it. It's very simple to use. So it's got a single button operation, which kind of scrolls from a home screen to about 4 or 5 other screens that tell you more information about what's going on, including things like different PM sizes, particular matter sizes, as well as what the runtime history has been for the last 8 hours. Regarding battery life, there's actually 3 modes on the device that you can choose from. It's a continuous mode, a standard mode, and an eco mode. In the eco mode, you can actually get a runtime up to 40 hours. And that's kind of sampling continuously, but it's actually data logging on a 1-minute basis, and it would dim the lights down and the screen a little bit dimmer than it would in the continuous mode. So what does it actually measure, and why is it a important factor to capture? So the Gilian Dustlight measures PM1, PM2.5, PM4, and PM10. And with that, it's able to get the respirable dust fraction, which meets the ISO 7708, as well as the OSHA standards for respiratory or respirable fractions. The device can actually target a number of different substances, not just silica or I would say general dust, but there are certain target specifications that you can customize or configure for oil mist and welding fumes, as well as a handful of other substance configurations. The thresholds are all configurable through the mobile app. So the device itself actually communicates via Bluetooth to your mobile app. The mobile app is needed to set up the device and configure the device. It also allows storing of basic information that is in real time on your mobile device app. So in addition to the traditional monitoring that is done with gravimetric sampling, one of the benefits of using a real-time monitor is that it can empower the workers to make, informed decisions in real time. So the device actually has a traffic light system. It's set up to go from green to yellow to red as your thresholds are exceeded. So you can actually set a low level alarm, which would turn it from green to yellow. And then you can set a high level alarm, which will turn it from yellow to red when it's exceeded. In addition to the visual alarms, there's an audible alarm that will beep as it goes from green to yellow, and then again as it goes from yellow to red. This allows the workers to be aware of their exposure in real time and act accordingly. For some companies, this may trigger wearing of PPE such as a respirator. If additional engineering controls can be implemented, whether that's ventilation or some other scrubber type system being utilized, they can be made aware of it and act accordingly. And it also promotes accountability as part of the safety culture of the organization. To have the worker really know and understand what they're being exposed to in real time. But the visual alarms are also something that supervisors and other members can be witness to and also be held accountable for within the organization. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Gilian Dustlight alarm system. As I mentioned just a minute ago, there's multiple alarm settings. Both audio and visual alerts will occur when those limits are exceeded. There are customizable alarms that allow you to set the thresholds for both your STEL and your TWA. You can set an action limit if you want, or a ceiling limit, or other user-defined limits, depending on your company and if you have internal thresholds, or if you want to, let's just say, buffer below the ACG IHTLV or the OSHA permissible exposure limit. It allows you to configure this manually. As I mentioned, the alarm indicators, for example, would go from green to yellow if your action limit was exceeded, and then from yellow to red if your ceiling limit was exceeded. That audible beep will reinforce the visual alerts. Real quick about the technology. It uses an optical particle counter technology. It's a light scatter. It is able to provide instant and time-weighted average concentrations of dust. It calculates that from concentrations of PM1, PM2.5, PM4, and PM10 to get that respirable fraction exposure. And then, of course, the instrument will provide a graph of exposure over time. This can be seen both on the instrument itself, but also on your mobile device. The graph that you actually see here is a graph of the Gilian Dustlight up against a GRIM particle analyzer. The GRIM instrument is a laboratory high-grade instrument, and you can really see that this portable wearable real-time monitor actually tracks very, very closely to this lab-grade particle analyzer. One additional benefit of the Gilian Dustlight is the software that supports it. There's different tiers of software, and depending on what your individual needs are within your company, it can provide live data, CSV, and a basic PDF report. And then if you need additional information, we have 2 paid subscription plans. These include a cloud storage as well as advanced profile information. The higher level enterprise plan allows for fleet management, things like alert history, centralized access, hierarchies can be set up if you have multiple instruments within your departments or on various sites within your organization. You can have all of that kind of tiered up to a central location or viewed by a central manager or administrator. You can also look at things like TWA and STEL analysis across different devices or across different personnel within your organization. So, real quick breakdown of the software. This is um, data management software. I mentioned there's the basic plan. This is a mobile app. It's free. It's downloadable from your Apple or Google Play Store. Again, you can view, live data. You can export a CSV file or a basic PDF report from your mobile device. But the data is stored locally on the device. So this is offline access. Our professional plan is a cloud access. It is a paid subscription. Um, it allows for advanced TWA and STEL reporting. It does auto sync to the cloud when you connect it to your computer and the web app. It enables advanced material configurations and substance profiles. So I alluded to things like oil mist and welding fumes and softwood, as well as additional substance profiles that are going to continue to come online as we, continue to build out this product. The enterprise plan, this is a higher level, fleet management plan. It includes basically everything that the professional plan has, but in addition, it allows team user management roles, as well as that centralized analysis up to a top level administrator from maybe, field managers or field supervisors that might be controlling multiple devices within their department. This is a chart. Really happy to share it, but I'm not going to fully go through every bit of it. But you can see that as you tier up from the basic plan to the professional plan to the enterprise plan, you get some additional benefits and features like the additional substance profiles, the cloud-based access and storage, the advanced data analytics, and those fleet management tools. So in summary, I like to highlight that there's lots of values to industrial hygienists and safety professionals. Being able to combine your real time with your gravimetric exposure data, really can provide, that more immediate response and active response for control. It saves time and cost and enables faster decisions to be made. It's small, it's lightweight, very wearable and user friendly. Our different data management platforms are scalable, for your needs. And it was really built for industrial hygienists and safety professionals in mind, giving them, lots of options to get the real-time information and really protect the health and safety of their workers. And with that, I'm happy to turn it back over and entertain any questions.
Okay, great. Thank you, Aaron. It looks like we have about 11 or 12 minutes left for questions. Just a reminder, if you'd like to ask a question, please send it through the chat window. The first question I saw come in, Aaron, was does it measure all size fractions simultaneously and show each or just one at a time that must be selected?
So one of the screens that is on the device will actually have the four PM sizes simultaneously shown. So the home screen is just showing the respirable fraction, but you can trigger over to one of the following screens, which will actually show the four different size fractions, the PM1, PM2.5, PM4, and PM10, and those are all showing in real time.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next question is why worn on a belt and not in the breathing zone?
Traditionally, you wouldn't. There are cases where it may be more difficult, but with the accessory packages, you really do want to put it in the worker's breathing zone if you're doing, workplace monitoring. We have different accessories, including an armband, where it can be worn kind of out of the way, but it's still within the breathing zone. There's a cross chest strap that allows for mounting across the chest in the worker breathing zone. It actually uses the same accessory systems that a lot of the law enforcement officers wear with their body cameras. And this is, again, just something that mounts it, to the center of their chest within that breathing zone. But the truth is, even though it does have a belt clip, I think that's more of the technical name for the clip itself. You can clip it to a shirt pocket. It doesn't have to be clipped to a belt.
Got it. Thank you. Next question is, will it only calculate or show TWA and still results with the professional plan?
Yes. So if you're looking for the TWA and still information, that is part of the advanced reporting. So that would be with the paid plan, whether it's the professional or enterprise, you'll get all that information with those subscription levels.
Okay, great. Next question is, for different size bins, does it show the mass for each at the end of the shift?
It does in the paid subscription software. So when you actually download the instrument into your web app, all of that metrics for each individual particle size concentration is shown for the time duration.
Okay. If you don't want to share the graph with the user, is there a method to hide that feature?
Well, so the graph, it's built into the instrument, but the graph is basically showing the last 8 hours um, of time. You have to actually trigger through the screens to get to the graph. It's not like it's always up on there. Right now, there's not a way to lock that out, but again, it's really just showing the home screen, which is the default screen, um, with just what the instantaneous concentration is.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, it looks like it will work best in an environment where you know the identity of the particulate. How would you use the different size fraction readings to determine the concentrations of different particulates in the air?
Sure. Um, when we talk about the different substance configurations, if you go to the paid subscription, for example, and you're looking at welding fumes, um, it was actually calibrated, at a level specifically looking at welding fumes. So welding fumes are generally, submicron. So your PM1 fraction is really what you're looking at when you're, targeting welding fumes, for example. But you know, it's an orientating measurement, so it's not going to be the same as what you're going to get with speciated, and mass concentrations, but it's really giving you a better orientation for that exposure for that substance configuration. So it's not going to be able to tell you based on the PM size, okay, this was a welding fume, or this was silica, or this was an oil mist. um, but when you select that you have that known substance, it can more accurately provide a concentration based on the calibration with that characterized material.
Okay, this might be a similar question, but just in case there's something to add, how are you able to screen for oil mist? Is it easy enough for a user to turn this on and off? And how about for silica?
Sure. So let's start with, how easy is it to turn on and off? Literally, it's a single button. As soon as you turn it on, the sample starts. There is no delayed start on this. So literally it's a one button operation. You turn it on, it's on because it goes from no lights on it to there's light showing. Once it's on, it's measuring. Um, as far as the configuration piece, I mean, it is very easy. So with the mobile app, you would, set your parameters and what you want your thresholds to be. If you're sampling for a certain material like oil mist, you would select the oil mist substance target substance configuration, and then the device will just use the, excuse me, calibration characteristics for that target substance in the response that it's giving. So in the concentrations that it's providing.
Okay, thank you. Next question I have is, you said real time and gravimetric. Does gravimetric mean a single result representing the entire sample period? And then a secondary question the person asked was, there is no filter, correct?
Yeah, there is no filter with this. It's strictly a real time measurement used for orientating. The gravimetric, which is the traditional monitoring, if you were looking at respirable dust, you'd be using a cyclone or an impactor. They both weigh the mass that is accumulated on that filter. That's the gravimetric piece. And of course, the next step is to speciate it. So I know I have a mass, but a mass of what? And that's what the real-time instruments are not capable of doing, is speciating. So you might have a mass of, let's just say 30 micrograms of a material, but it's more important to know that 17 of those micrograms are quartz. So that's where, once you kind of orient yourself with the real-time measurement, it's still the appropriate process to then go back and do your gravimetric sampling, periodically, whether that's once a year if you're in compliance, or longer depending on your program, or if you're, out of compliance again, and you're using other controls, you could wear the Gilian Dustlight on a daily basis just to kind of, record. Yes, we're, trying to mitigate controls. We have, respiratory protection in place until we can get an additional control in to reduce exposures to below what the permissible exposure limit is, or the action limit is. But, in general, this is not meant to replace that gravimetric sampling with speciation, but really to enhance it and complement it.
Okay, thank you. Next question I have is, have you considered a study to validate the monitoring data versus traditional exposure monitoring methods? And this commenter said, I'd suggest contracting, an IH grad school to conduct a study of the dust light versus OSHA NIOSH validated monitoring methods and publishing the data in the Journal of Occupational and Environmental Hygiene.
Yep, I'd be happy to. Again, my contact information is available. I also serve on, a real-time committee with the AIHA, and we're always looking at opportunities to, better test and validate real-time instruments. So, we're happy as a company to work with both educational institutions, academic institutions, as well as, other AIHA, committees and professionals to vet, how this does compare with, other, I would say, traditional techniques.
Thank you. Next question, just have another minute or two here. Hopefully we can squeeze another in. Is it necessary to perform any correction or adjustment on the equipment when operating at a high altitude, such as between 3,500 and 4,000 meters above sea level?
So it's not. Uh, Currently there is no correction factor. There is I would say, stated operating conditions. If you went, really high up, that can definitely impact the density of the air. But as the laser, light scatter sensor is being utilized, I don't know if it would greatly be impacted by that change in air density with the amount of particulates being pulled through the device. That is something I could look further into. I'm not 100% sure that it would require that. I know that we do look at that when we're looking at more traditional air monitoring, because we're looking at the impacts of volume over the longer period of time, whereas the sensor is actually accumulating data, in the second by second. of looking at the air that's passing through the optical sensor. So I can look into that further, and I'd be happy to get back with whoever posed this question, or to circulate that information back out.
Okay, great. Thank you, Erin. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. Please know we'll be sharing all questions from today's event with Sensidyne. So if we didn't get to your question, we will pass it along. My thanks to Aaron Apostolico for his presentation, to Sensidyne for sponsoring today's product demo webinar, and to all of our participants. Please join us next week on September 23rd for our next Synergist webinar, which will focus on PFAS identification and exposure assessment. You can register at aihj.webvent.tv. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day.